Michael's father, James Carter, was a legend in their small town. A former basketball star who had once been scouted by the NBA, James had lived and breathed the game his entire life. To him, basketball wasn't just a sport. It was a way of life, a path to glory, and the only thing worth pursuing. His trophies lined the walls of their home, and his stories of buzzer beaters and championship wins were the soundtrack of Michael's childhood. But Michael didn't share his father's passion for the court. Instead, he found solace in the quiet intensity of chess. At 16, Michael was a prodigy, his mind a labyrinth of strategies and calculations. While his classmates dribbled basketballs during recess, Michael sat under the shade of an oak tree, hunched over a chessboard, his fingers hovering over the pieces like a conductor ready to orchestrate a symphony. James saw chess as a waste of time. "It's not a real sport," he'd say, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're just sitting there, moving little pieces around. What's the point?" Michael's mother, Linda, tried to mediate, but her efforts were futile. James was stubborn, his worldview as rigid as the rules of the game he loved. When Michael refused to try out for the high school basketball team, James's frustration boiled over. "You're throwing your life away!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. "You think chess is going to get you anywhere? You think it's going to pay the bills? Put food on the table?" Michael stood his ground, his voice steady but firm. "Chess is what I love, Dad. It's who I am." James's eyes narrowed. "Then you've made your choice. Give up chess or leave this house." The ultimatum hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy and suffocating. Michael's heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't waver. "I'm not giving up chess," he said quietly. Without another word, he packed his bags and left. With nowhere else to go, Michael turned to his chess coach, Mr. Patel. A retired mathematics professor with a passion for the game, Mr. Patel had been Michael's mentor for years. He welcomed Michael into his home without hesitation, offering him a spare room and a place to train. Under Mr. Patel's guidance, Michael's skills soared. They spent hours analyzing games, studying openings, and dissecting endgames. Mr. Patel taught Michael to see the board not just as a collection of pieces, but as a battlefield where every move mattered. "Chess is a game of patience and precision," he said. "It's about outthinking your opponent, not outmuscling them." Michael threw himself into his training, his determination fueled by the sting of his father's rejection. He played online matches late into the night, his eyes glued to the screen as he honed his craft. The chessboard became his refuge, a place where he could escape the pain of his fractured family. Months later, Michael received the news he'd been working toward. He had qualified for the International Youth Chess Championship. It was a prestigious event, drawing the best young players from around the world. For Michael, it was a chance to prove himself, not just to his father, but to everyone who had ever doubted him. When Mr. Patel called James and Linda to share the news, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "He's really that good?" James finally asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "He's more than good," Mr. Patel replied. "He's exceptional, and he needs your support." The day of the tournament arrived, and Michael stood at the entrance of the grand hall, his heart pounding. The room was filled with the hum of conversation, the clatter of pieces, and the tension of 100 silent battles. As he took his seat at the board, he glanced at the audience, and there, in the back row, were his parents. James's face was unreadable, but Linda's eyes were filled with tears. Michael's breath caught in his throat, but he forced himself to focus. This was his moment. The games were grueling, each move a test of skill and endurance. Michael played with a ferocity that surprised even himself, his mind racing through possibilities and countermoves. When the final match ended, the room erupted in applause. Michael had won. As he stood on the podium, the gold medal gleaming around his neck, he looked out at the crowd. His parents were standing now, their faces a mix of pride and regret. James stepped forward, his voice trembling as he spoke. "I was wrong, Michael. I didn't understand. But I see it now. Chess isn't just a game. It's your passion. And I'm so proud of you." Tears welled in Michael's eyes as he embraced his parents. For the first time in years, he felt seen, understood, and loved. Michael's victory wasn't just a triumph on the chessboard. It was a bridge that reconnected him with his family. James became his biggest supporter, attending every tournament and cheering him on with the same fervor he once reserved for basketball. And Michael, now a rising star in the chess world, knew that his journey was just beginning. For in the game of life, as in chess, every move matters, and sometimes the greatest victories come from the hardest sacrifices. This story can be expanded with more details about Michael's training, specific chess matches, and deeper exploration of his relationships with his parents and Mr. Patel.